you go out and you pick away, you'll get odd ones, but what you'll find is that they'll follow you up and whatnot, but there's no malice. They're just following
Yeah.
it. They're not going to eat it. They're just.
I'm going to say to the client tomorrow, if he gets a half-hearted rise, I'm going to say, there was no malice in that rise.
No intent. No.
Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. And with Tom recently returned from his busman's holiday on the Orkneys, what better time to record another bucket list episode focusing on the brown trout fishing to be had in the northern Scottish Islands. On this episode, you'll hear from some of the guides and gillies that Tom met during his stay, and you'll find out more about the landscape and history of the place. But first, Tom, I'm curious to know as to the how and why the Orkneys came onto your radar in the first place.
Come on, Dara. Yeah. First thing first, great. It's off the bucket list, and that's, it's always an achievement. If you have something in the bucket list, just to strike it off. And might add, fantastic, but we'll get more into that later. So the why and the where, the why first off was my dad fished international there in 1985. And it was one place he used to always go on about. He fished Monteith a couple of times in internationals. Didn't have, that was Scotland, the Lake Monteith. Thought it was all right. Had no ken to go back to, but always went on about the Orkneys. And it was always a thing we'd said, generally in O'Malley's bar, that we'd go back, the pair of us, and we'd everything booked that night, but the following day, the way things go. It never materialized, and unfortunately, he passed away before we ever got to do it. So it was one regret. So I'd always wanted to go to it. So it was there in the back of my mind. And I think what pushed it a bit further was, and this is one I've always gone on about the joys of competition fishing, was I was fishing an airflow final in Rutland. And in competition fishing, you get to meet people generally because you're paired with them in the boat. And I got drawn with Ken Kennedy from the Orkney Islands on the second day of the event. And we had a great day. And Kevin was a great, we really hit it off in the boat with great crack that day, fishing the South Arm, if I remember. And I remember he gave me a load of flies that evening. I think I gave him flies as well. I gave him some Irish flies. He gave me some of the flies for the Orkneys. And he said, I remember him saying, you've got to come to the Orkneys. I said, sure, I want to come. And I explained everything to him, but he said, no, you've got to come. And that's actually 10 years ago. Yeah.
10 years in the making. And so did you round up a crew, was it?
Yeah, rounded up a crew. I got a nice number together, 4. Great number. Now, and this is interesting. I was thinking the dynamics of, let's say, because the last trip show we did was after you went to Greenland. You just joined a group that was going.
Yeah.
So it was everybody coming in. But because we organized it itself, we picked, and we kept it at 4. So we knew everybody. So on it was Mike Keady, well known in this parish, as they say.
Friend of the show, baby. Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yeah. Kevin Kerrigan and Mike Shanks. And Kevin Kerrigan and Mike Shanks live here beside me. And Kevin and Mike and myself have been on trips to Durness before. And Mike had been to the Orkneys before. So it was, so it was good. It was a nice number. And we've all fished together before, so it was great. We all knew another.
So tell me this, right? Because I think of the Orkneys, and I'm always like this, the Orkneys, the Hebrides, Shetland, right? There's a load of islands.
You imagine the map of Scotland.
Yeah.
That you see, right? And for those who know, John O'Groats in the top northeastern corner, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's 2 groups of islands north of Scotland. The Orkneys are the one closer.
And it's the Hebrides above it?
No, the Hebrides on the west coast.
See, I'm always getting this wrong. So what's above the Orkneys?
The Shetlands.
Ah.
Mike Shanks would not be happy with you because in a former life, Mike Shanks was a geography teacher.
Yeah. Scotland wasn't big on our list.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't big on Kevin Kerrigan either because he was on the phone one night and he said, I'm here in the Hebrides.
So was it a bit of, so what's the journey like to get there?
That's the thing. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. So we left Kernamona. All of us left around between 5 o'clock and 5:15 on Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Drove up to Belfast, got an 11 o'clock ferry to Carnryan, got into Carnryan at 10 to 2 o'clock, made it to Stirling for a stop there to pick up some flies in a shop in Stirling. And from then did another 3 hours, and we stopped in Aviemore for fish and chips. Drove through Inverness. Went through Inverness about 9 o'clock and got into a place we booked up in Strathpeffer, which is north of Inverness, at 9:30 that night.
And then from there, then is it a ferry then?
Yeah, 2.5 hour drive in the morning to get to the ferry. So we got to the Orkneys just about 1:30 the following on the Saturday. So,
And how long is the ferry then across?
It's not that long. It's about an hour. It's a hard place to get to. That's the one thing I'll warn anybody going to Ireland. But it's doable as long as you know.
And what was your immediate impression when the ferry's coming in across the water and you're landing on the island? What are you thinking?
Oh,
Jeez, it's just like home.
It's like coming into Cleggan Harbour.
I came all this way.
St. Margaret's Hope. So, it was great. It was just, we were like kids going into a toy store, getting to land on it. We were all excited and everything. Naturally, we were. So the ferry landed in the south, right on the southern tip of it is an island, but they're joined by causeways now, Churchillian causeways. Anybody who knows their naval history and wartime history, Scapa Flow. First of all, the German fleet was scuttled there at the end of World War I, and the wrecks are still there, and we've taken pictures.
Oh my God.
And it's amazing. There was over, I think, 50 ships scuttled. It was after the Versailles Treaty, and the German admiral didn't want to hand over the ships because they were going to go to the Allies. So he scuttled them. And the wrecks are still there. You can still see them. And it's over 100 years. Now, there's not a lot of them left, but you can see big cogged wheels and everything, and masts sticking up. So it's fantastic. So you drive over these causeways. The reason the causeways were put in was to stop the Royal Navy used to have a base in Scapa Flow, and the Royal Oak was sunk early in the Second World War because the U-boats were able to go between the islands. So what they did was they built 3 causeways to make it harder for them. So you drive over these causeways and you can see the wrecks. That's amazing as soon as you go in.
So are all the Orkneys, it's 3 islands, or is it more than 3 islands?
Oh God, there's 14 inhabited islands and 7. I think it's more. I have to check that. Or there's a heap of islands, as we'd say.
And what's the landscape? Is it just kind of flat, hilly, stony?
There's one as you're coming in. There's one island that's a bit like the Highlands, in that it has the mountain and everything, but the rest of it is just at most hilly.
And is it dotted with lakes?
Well, we were on the mainland, and I wouldn't say dotted with lakes, but there are a lot of lakes. We passed a few on the way. I don't know how many there are. For fishing, I think there's about 11 or 12 on the island, on the mainland. And then the other islands are all dotted with lakes.
I think it was the week you were there. I was fascinated. I was reading about there was rumours of the Orkneys local county council looking into maybe joining up with the Norwegian Federation or something like this. So is there a very culturally, are they very different to the Scottish mainland as islanders normally are? But are they? Because it was correct me if I'm wrong. That would have been part of the Norwegian Empire up until 500 years ago or something like.
I think it was about the 12 to 1300s or 1400s, in around then. And what happened was King of Scotland married a Norwegian princess who was daughter of the King of Norway, and the dowry was never paid. And in lieu of the dowry not being paid, Scotland received the Orkney Islands. Yeah.
So up until then, they were always part of the Norwegian.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating, isn't it? Considering how close they were to the Scottish mainland.
Yeah.
But they always looked. They looked more east to or northeast or whatever.
And Norway. The names of the place, Kirbister, Mercister, Stennis, Stronas, and Kevin and myself were asking, because Kevin and myself, we could occasionally be speaking in Irish between us, the pair of us, and we asked, was there any Gaelic or history of Gaelic on the island? And there isn't. There's no history of Gaelic been spoken on the islands.
So come here, you've spoken to a few of the, we'll get into the fishing as well in a little bit. But you also spoke to a couple of the kind of the Gaelies and the guides. On the island.
It was a real busman's holiday. So we decided well back that we were going to get boatmen or gillies. We knew the size of the lake, and Ken will tell us about them when I'm talking to him now short, when we played the clip of me talking to him. But we just look, Harry is big enough, can see it. So we just said, look, for ease of everything, we got gillies. So we had 4 gillies for the trip that we were there, and I've done clips with 3 of them. And it's great to hear their perspective on things. So just to give you a rundown, like first weekend for a couple of days, and so I got Ken, who's heavily involved with them, as all of the lads are that we had with the Orkney fly fishing, the Orkney, the club, and we'll talk about that later. But I got chatting to them, but the main thing was, first thing I asked Ken to talk about, tell us, was the different lakes on the island and the ones that matter to the lads that are going fishing.
There's 4 or 5 main lochs with boats and boat hire on them. There's Swanee, which is probably the second biggest one, and then it's a peat stained loch, a brown water loch as we call them, and pretty shallow apart from up the middle. There's lots of skerries and rocks and things, and an island. It's quite an interesting loch to fish. And then we have going west, we've got Hunland, which is again a brown water loch, very shallow, very dangerous because it's full of skerries and you can't see them. They're the same colour as the water. It's dangerous. Then we have Boardhouse, which is Hunland runs into Boardhouse. It feeds into Boardhouse, and Boardhouse is a water supply for the county. Boardhouse is probably the visitor's favourite loch because it's
safe, isn't it?
It's safe. There's no skerries. You can pretty much drift end to end, side to side, and you'll only get shallows at the edges.
And it's about the same size as Swanee, yeah?
Yeah, I would say so. I just probably
bit smaller naturally because you said Swanee second biggest, but it's not too much smaller than Swanee.
No, not really. No, and then we've got the jewel in the crown. As far as most people are concerned, that's Harry.
Yeah.
It's the biggest loch. It's 3 3/4 square miles or something.
What is it from end to end? What's the distance from end to end?
It's 4.5 miles at its longest, and a mile and 3/4 at its widest point.
Right.
And there's 14 miles of shoreline, so it's very popular for wading anglers,
Yeah, it's a big lake, and like we've seen from Manala, you can get a fine big roller on it, Ken, can't you?
Oh, you can get good. When it's a southeasterly and northwesterly, you can get a good wave in it. All right, there's the S Homes. It's a strip of islands that's basically go across the middle of it. It's about halfway, and it breaks up the waves pretty much from getting huge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that bit more or less in the middle. Yeah.
That's the S Homes. It's just a freshwater loch. It's got a lot of big burns that run into it. Very good spawning facilities in the burns. Along with the other lochs, the Trout Fishing Association have a hatchery. We don't stock any of the main lochs at all. We don't think that we need to, because there's nothing broken that we can see. So it's a bit of a myth, because people think that we stock all the big lochs. We don't. We stock the North Isles and some of the smaller lochs in Orkney that don't have spawning facilities.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You were telling me that. So basically, for those who don't know, there's a lot of islands in the Orkneys, and all these lakes are on the mainland. But you have lakes on some of the North Isles that never had fish. And you've taken fish from the hatchery and put them into these lakes. And how have they done?
Oh, tremendous, unbelievably well, and especially in Sandy in the North Isles. It's pretty famous now for its trophy fish. There's 3 lochs in Sandy: B Loch, North Loch, and Ruse. B Loch is the most prolific. It fishes really well, and because the sort of rules and regulations that are put on us by Marine Scotland, we can only stock it from one area of, like it's Harry fish that are in it.
Right. So it's only stocked with Harry fish, yeah?
With Harry fry, yeah. It's all fry, but we used to grow them on to fingerling to a year old, but because we had to shift the hatchery, and it's on a loch, a Kirbister loch. It's a water supply, so we can't feed the fish because we wouldn't ever get a consent to discharge back into the loch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Having fed them and doing all sorts of things, so we just put all the fish out as fry, and it seems to work. Right. I know a lot of them won't see full maturity, but obviously enough of them do.
Obviously some of them do,
Yeah.
Obviously some of them do. And you say Bayloch, actually quite a few of them obviously do, and do well, yeah?
Oh yes, there's every chance of catching a 5 and 6 pound plus fish off of Bayloch on a trip, yeah.
Yeah, and they're mainly shore fishing, aren't they? Those lochs?
Yeah. There are anglers are getting more up to speed with float tubes.
Right.
It's ideal for a float tube because it's pretty much it's safe. You know what I mean? It's not too big, and it's not too rocky.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of boys take float tubes and do well with the float tubes. As far as I'm aware, there are no boats for hire anymore. But it's, boys from mainland Orkney take their own boats over and launch them and have a couple of days on it.
Yeah,
you can do that. Yeah.
One of the lads was saying that, all right. But to be honest, from what I'm hearing, I mean, it's still quite successful fishing from the shore on those lochs as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as there's not, it's very quickly stirs up. It gets turbid very quickly because it's so shallow and so muddy.
Yeah.
So if there's any wind in the forecast, I would reschedule.
Right.
Because it just turns over that quick,
Well, I remember before we were going over, I had mentioned it to you about the possibility. Yeah. I think logistically, you'd want to be there for kind of longer than a week. The week we were there to take it, because it's not.
You hardly get it all the mainland lochs in a week,
No, we didn't actually. We didn't. It's interesting there. You described Hunland. We didn't get onto Hunland. We didn't get onto Stennis. You mentioned Stennis, but funny enough, Stu. I was chatting to Stu earlier, and he told us a bit about Stennis, and that's an amazing loch with the saltwater and the tidal element as well.
Yeah. It's you just never know what you're going to get there, really. You can catch a brown trout, a sea trout,
pollock,
turbot, you name it.
Yeah,
get them all in there.
I just think that's crazy.
Harry, of course, runs into that.
Of course,
there's a bridge.
Now we're mainly talking like for the fishing there, it's mainly brown trout, but you do get sea trout. You get sea trout in Stennis, and you do get sea trout in Harry as well, don't you?
They run through from Stennis.
Yeah.
There's a brig between Harry and Stennis, and there's many years ago there was a big fish kill on Harry due to it was low water levels, and there was a high tide and it got a big influx of salt water.
Oh, right.
And it basically took all the oxygen out of the water that was in there. So basically all the trout suffocated and died. They were trying to run up the burns,
right?
For fresh water.
They
were apparently using JCB diggers to clear out the burns of trout that was in them, dead trout that was in them.
Right.
So anyway, they decided then that wasn't ever going to happen again. So what they did was there's openings in the brig to let it run backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Where Harry can run into Stennis when the tides are low.
Right. Okay.
When the tides are high, Stennis used to be able to. So what they did was they put mechanical flaps on the Stennis side.
Right.
So that if it's higher than Harry, it shuts the flaps and it can't get in anymore.
Right.
And that's
stopping that ever happening again.
And that's how the sea trout get in, is when the flaps open.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But it still doesn't stop sea trout running in, because sea trout when Stennis is lower.
Stennis is lower and Harry's higher.
Yeah.
There's a good run. There's a good run through the brig then when they're open.
Yeah. Wow.
Just draws them through.
That's amazing. I was chatting there to Stu, and he was telling me you have a really active club on the Orkneys. Really impressed. We were talking about the sites and everything. How long has it been on the go, Ken?
Oh, well, we've had our centenary year,
right?
But I can't for the life of me remember how many years ago that was.
Right. Okay. So it's been around a while.
It might be 120, maybe 120 years old, 125, something like that, maybe.
Right. So there's a really you can get it there. There's a long tradition.
We get well supported by visiting anglers as well. There's a visiting anglers membership if they care to join the association. We have no legal powers or anything jurisdiction in the lochs. We're just perceived to be the custodians, if you know what I mean. So.
And might I add, Ken, very good custodians.
Well, it's full of really active members of the committee, and the members are always keen to help out in whatever. We've got in excess of 500 members a season.
Yeah.
200 and odd locals and 200 and odd visitors.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, only about 3 or 4 juniors. That's the sad bit.
Well, funny, we've discussed that quite a bit, Darren and myself, on the podcast here. And I mean, that's not just an Orkney problem. That's a problem throughout the fly fishing world and the fishing world. And it's something we have to try and address. I don't know what the long term is going to be. We'll wait and see. But no, I'm with you on that. You don't see, there's not a hell of a lot of young anglers coming up, so it's something that really we have to put as much effort into as we can wherever we can.
The authorities and that don't make it easy, though. It's they put all sorts of restrictions in your way. Really, it's difficult.
There are, and
the only well, I think the way is their parents have to take an active part.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Even if it's getting them first involved in fly tying or something.
It's probably easier in a lot of other sports where they can just drop the kids off to training and collect them. Let's say if it's football training or whatever. But because going out in a boat and there are obstacles in our way. It's different to when you and I were growing up, Ken, where we just went off on a bike.
That's right.
And weren't seeing it until sundown.
Pleaded with my old man to take me with him. Just so it would be.
Actually, speaking of that, Ken,
sitting in the front of the boat.
Speaking of that, Ken, you're not originally an Orcadian.
No.
I'm west of Scotland.
I'm from the west. I'm from Lochaber. It's Fort William, the west coast. I grew up fishing all the big lochs, the western lochs, Locharkeig and Lochlochy, and some good sea trout lochs in the early days. I can remember fishing them. Not fishing, but I was there in the boat with my father in Lochailt and things like that down at Lochailot. That's where it all started for me.
But you got hauled up to the Orkneys anyway, and you ended up in the
That's
Orkneys.
right. I got smitten now. Never. I don't regret a minute of it.
Oh, well, you've never looked back. You've never looked back. Yeah. Yeah, well, there are a lot worse places you could have been smitten in.
That's right, yeah.
There is, yeah. So at the moment, just going out, the fishing is still going really good for you there, isn't it?
Yeah, I was out today. Harry was fished well again. The fish are still in the same sort of areas. I think they're just in that sort of depth between shallow and deep. They're just in about 6 feet of water where you can just see the bottom. That's where they seem to be holding at the minute. And
I see one.
The deep
waters hasn't really come on yet, has it?
Eh?
As the deep waters hasn't really come on yet.
No, not really on. No, the fish are definitely out there.
Yeah,
but the water quality's got to improve a wee bit before I think they'll switch on in the deep water.
Yeah, and
you'll go out and you'll pick away. You'll get odd ones, but what you'll find is that they'll follow you up and whatnot. But there's no malice. They're just following. Yeah. They're not going to eat it. They're just.
I like that. I'll use that again. There's no malice.
No, they're just.
I'm going to say that if I have a client, I'm going to say to the client tomorrow, if he gets a half-hearted rise, I'm going to say, there was no malice in that rise.
No intent. No. But they just come up and sail past it and go back down again. They just.
Yeah.
I don't believe they ever open their mouths.
Yeah, they no intention of it. But just talking there, and you're saying water quality. I mean, the water quality still holds up well, so you'd be happy for the future there. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any problems other than we do have an algae problem in Harry in the spring. It's a brown algae, but it's a cold water algae. So when the water warms up, it kills it off. And usually by this time, Harry's gin crystal clear, but it's not quite there yet.
Right.
Yeah. But it'll come hopefully. And the other logs are fine. They don't have any problems. Swanee just is what it is. Just varying degrees of peat stain.
Yeah, it is very peat stained. It was like fishing a sea trout loch. That's what I thought with it. Yeah.
Right. And the fish are a lot darker, of course.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. No, but
virgin and black at times.
Yeah, it was amazing actually. But then to go to the Harry fish are so beautiful. Really,
they're totally. They're bonny.
Really interesting stuff there, Tom, from Ken. Kind of gives us some really interesting insights from and hatchery as well. We might get into that if we've had.
Well, if we don't get
issue.
Into it now, I think it's something we've got to discuss at a future date. Yeah.
Yes. Watch this space. I do definitely want to. We will be covering it. But interesting. Then he's talking there. We heard just at the end about the quality of the water and obviously how well looked after it is. And interestingly, for an island, you were saying it's actually quite an agricultural island. There's good farmland there. Like,
oh yeah, that was the thing that struck us. Like, because I've been up in the northwest Scotland before and up in the Highlands, and I wasn't expecting what I got there. I mean, the woman we got the house off, like they're farmers, and she was telling us like the Orkneys has the highest rate of grass growth in Great Britain. It is phenomenal. And it was just like when we were there, there was the pedal to the mat, that diesel song. That there was nothing but McHale balers and everything going around. They're cutting silage, cutting hay. Yeah, it's a really good agricultural land.
What is it? Dairy, beef? What is it?
There's a mixture. There is dairy on it. There is beef, mainly cattle, and we did see a fair few sheep. None of the Mountainese that I know so well might hear. Good lowland breeds. The cattle were in fine fettle. I mean, you wouldn't have to be a stockman to look at them to realize that, whoa. But it was really amazing. It was really good agricultural land. Now, Swanee, all right, we discussed about there, which is the Peatier Loch. That's all right. That's in the northern part of the mainland, and it's a bit hilly there. But the rest of it, like Harry, is just surrounded by lush green fields.
How many people are living on it? Like, give us an idea. Like, what would you drive?
I think the population of the Orkneys is about 20,000. There's a lot of people on. Oh, yeah.
You're going to say 500 people.
No, I mean, this is, Kirkwall.
Okay, this is metropolis like.
Yeah, Kirkwall will be the size of an Irish provincial town.
Jesus, okay.
Oh, yeah. And, we went into Kirkwall only twice. But yeah, no, there's a lot of people on it.
How long would it take you to go from one link to the main island to the other?
Okay, so for example, where we got the ferry was on the southeastern corner of the island, and we were closer to the northwestern corner. So it took us 35 minutes.
Not the Aran Islands.
You already said, well, as Ken said, I mean, Harry, no, it's not like the Aran Islands, but Harry is 4.5 miles long.
Yeah, think of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was your favorite lake?
I think Harry. I really think Harry. It was just, it was fantastic. Now, Swanee was nice, and Boardhouse. We fished Swanee, Boardhouse, and Harry. And we left the last day open to do one of the 3 lakes. Now, at that stage, we'd done 3 days in Harry, half a day in Swanee because we lost it, as Norman tells us later on, and a full day on Boardhouse. And then all of us agreed for the last day we'd go back to Harry.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah. I mean, the fishing was just amazing there. And there was 2 types, and discussing that, because Ken mentions about the sunk line fishing there. But primarily we did fishing the hogs, right? And hogs are like hedgehogs, peat hogs. So they're dressed with the deer hair on the back. And so we started off, let's say the first day on Harry, and we were with Norman. And we started off. Now we had a couple of hogs on and everything, because he'd given us that in the morning and ginked up. And he said, floater, what line? He goes, I like an intermediate, slower fast, and he goes, fast generally that I use. Okay. So we did that. He says he normally fishes 4. We both hedged for 3 that day. We had the cast made up. Gink up on the back. And we asked all 3 of them. He says, yeah, all 3 of them. So we started fishing as we went home. After 10, 15 minutes, we'd one tentative rise. And you could sense it with now. Being a boatman, I kind of knew. And I just said, okay, no, what are we doing wrong? And I immediately said, okay, you're casting way too far. And you're retrieving way too fast. And he said, yeah, shorten the length you're casting. We're casting probably like Daphnia style, Mask Carve or Melvin, probably chucking out 25 meters of line and ripping it back. So bring it out to 15 meters of line and put it out. He said the important thing then is 3 or 4 pulls and then start lifting the rod, but keep the pulls going.
While you're lifting?
While you're lifting. So that actually sped up. If you think, like lifting the rod is part of a retrieve anyway, but the retrieves as well. So what it did was the first couple of pulls, and then as you lifted the rod, kind of retrieved it, and it brought you dibbling them far out. But it was amazing. The response was immediate. And
tell me this, like a kind of tactic like that or technique like that, would you try it on carb?
Yeah, of course.
Like that's what I'm saying. Have you kind of gone, ooh, I'll try this now?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to try it on the Daphne feeders, which we'll be trying to do. Now, the other thing that I absolutely adored, and Ken was on about there that it's not on, was their sunk line fishing. And basically, and this is amazing because we all think, DI7s, DI5s and DI7s. You think rainbows, rubies and that. But they use DI7 sweeps mainly on Harry. So I had to go on one afternoon a session on absolutely fantastic. So you do chuck out a long line and use completely different fry to the hogs. Like why did you use the hogs here? What you're using is basically they're like muddlers with marabou wings, and very garish. They had a fly called the Boris, which was it was bright orange. Could have been called the Donald. Yeah, but it's called Boris anyway. The Murky Maid, a couple of the Hulks. So guys who know them. So anybody who's aware of these patterns, they've seen them. But that's the names of them. So you chuck it out and you would count. It's a bit of a countdown like you do on rainbows. But next thing you start ripping it back, varying the tree, figure of 8. I had a fantastic session. I did a couple hours and I had 7 trout. The first cast, I did a hang on the first cast. I was just holding it and I saw my Boris just fly down and the fish took the second fly down from it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in straight away. Where that came to fore, there was an international there in 2011. And teams that had the DI7 sweep swept the board. I was actually the Welsh team. And it was phenomenal catches. I think that the top row of the day boated 18 trout. And it had a couple of threes in one cast. Because you go through shows. But it was amazing. Wasn't really on, so we only did it for an afternoon. But I loved it. They just seem to move off the shallows. It may be with warmer water temperatures. Like Harry is a shallow lake, beautiful lake, and as he says, it's clear. For anybody who's ever fished Loch Carra, the trout are very similar. Like they were beautiful fish. And when we put out the thing on social media, we'll have a couple of pictures of them up. They're really bright and golden. They're beautiful, but it's not a very deep lake. I think the deepest part might only, God, I don't know. Like all I can say is like when I was fishing the sunk line, I was in about 12 foot of water. Counted down the longest countdown I did that I fish on was I counted down 15, chucked it out, counted down 15 seconds, figure eighted and started pulling, and I think it was on the second pull I had a fish. Yeah, it was class.
What kind of average size are you getting? Okay,
this is the thing. They are smaller. They are smaller fish. Size limit on Harry is 11 inches. Okay, so for any competition, if you're keeping a fish, it's an 11-inch size limit. The biggest fish we had for the week was 2 pounds. Okay, so you don't get that. There are big fish and there are trophy water fish. They're generally not. They're the smaller lakes on the other end. But what they lack for in size, they make up for in numbers. Like we had close on 240 fish between the four of us for 5.5 days fishing.
You'd be on a drift, and if you only got a couple of pulls, you'd be like, I thought
that was it. I was out with Mike Shanks one morning. First drift, it was on Harry. We boated 7 trout. Mike lost 2 playing them. Like he's well into playing them. Norman had the net out and everything. I tumbled to one really good fish in the water on the hogs. It's just a golden explosion, the rod of bend, and come back, and you would say, "Oh, that was rather unfortunate. Maybe I should get the next one."
Very calmly. That's very
yes. Oh, good luck to you. But so the next drift after that, I think we rose 3 fish, and Mike got one of them. And we looked at one another and went, geez, that was a quiet drift.
Getting spoiled like already.
Yeah, absolutely spoiled. Yeah, but the numbers and the activity, and actually they fought very well as well. And also as well, think about like it's an 11-inch size limit on Loch Melvin. And Loch Melvin is one of my,
So this leads me to the next question, which is, if it's numbers, smaller size, less numbers, bigger size, say, Cara, what's your preference now? If you had the choice?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Do you know what? Because I passed the biggest fish. And the stages of fishing. You want to catch a fish, then you want to catch loads of fish, then you want to catch the biggest fish, then you want to catch most challenging fish. I'd probably hedge for loads of fish again.
More action.
It was phenomenal.
Well, especially though, I suppose like when you're on holidays, you want the action. You know what I mean?
You really do.
So would you recommend an Orkneys as like for beginners then as well? Like that it's decent?
Well, anybody who's capable of wet fly fishing.
Yeah,
you can, as you said, you can throw 50 meters of fly line. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And you will get action.
Yeah, you will get action. But the fishing just absolutely phenomenal and very interesting. And the hogs they take, like we've used hogs here. You'd have a green Peter hog, a fiery brown hog. The hogs there are very garish. That's the only thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
did you take a few flies before back? Like that you'll try?
Yeah, I have them here. I mean, we had flies going. We tied a few. We even tied a few there. The lads, very good. Give us a couple of their patterns. Stu and Norman and Ken. They had flies for us. They were really good. Well, so we were well equipped with them. So they will be tried here. But the garishness got them. And then Norman was saying, because Stan Headley, who wrote the Flies of Scotland book. I'm very into his flies and everything, but Norman invented the original half hop as well. But he was saying, like in discussion with Stan, that Stan would be asking, why are they taking this garish thing? Right, you'd be wondering why would they be doing that? And Norman said, you know what? Sometimes you just don't ask. Sometimes you just fish them. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just
you know, if it works, don't get bogged down on it, and they really did take it. Yeah.
So will we hear from one of the other bowmen? Was it Stuart Leslie, was it?
Yeah, let's hear to Stuart now, and it's really good because it's very interesting. I was chatting to Stu, and I wanted to ask her because I talked to Stu in one of the huts there, and they call them sites, and the club there are really good, really progressive club, and have been for years. But on all the 5 main lakes that Ken discussed, they have sites on, which is like a clubhouse where you can go in and everybody, like we got keys when we were there. Ken mentioned everybody joined. We joined as visiting anglers, and we were given keys, so we could have used it for the week we were there. They were fantastic, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask to Stu about, and the club. But very interesting because Ken didn't mention it there when we were talking about Stennis, but Stu lives beside Stennis, and Stennis is a very interesting loch. So he talks about it at the end of the clip. Very interesting.
We have sort of 5 main lochs. On each of the main lochs, I've got a site which gives you a shelter and provides a safe launching for your boats if you have a boat.
That's great. You have 5 of them. Yeah. Well, there's obviously one here. We're on Loch Harry. What other lakes are there?
On Loch Stennis, Loch Birdhouse, Loch Hunland, and Loch Swanee.
Wow. Come here, how long have they been around for?
I'm not sure how long they've been. Well, the sites have been here for a long time, but they've just developed through time.
You're right, yeah.
If you know what I mean.
They really are a fantastic facility, and every club member gets a key of it.
Yeah, if you need a key, if you have a boat, you can get a key if you want it. If you don't want it,
right.
You can. But it just costs you. It kind of makes a couple of £1 or something for the key.
Yeah,
and it fits all the sites and all the huts. It's the same key, fits all the facilities.
Oh, right. So once you have a key for it, that's it.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, we've been so impressed with all the facilities you have here. It's been just fantastic. You're a really good club. How many members do you have?
I think on average, it's about 500 members, but it's maybe 50-50 with between visiting anglers and local anglers.
Right.
Because a lot of the visiting anglers, when they come up here, they just join the club. I think it's about £30 for a visiting angler.
Right, yeah, that's well, we've all done that. Yeah. We've tried to do our bit because it really has been. We're so impressed with what's been here. I thought we do a little bit as well, but I'd imagine most lads, most visiting anglers would be the same.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And that's why you have 500.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
500.
Yeah. I mean, it's good facilities. It makes easy access. They don't have to think they're going to get to the loch. They just go to the site and they're there.
It's there, and then once you're in, you can leave a boat here, and that's
right. You pay extra for a boat, but it's something like £2 as well, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
oh
so
it's
just nominal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to break the bank.
No.
Yeah. And we're here in Harry today, and we have been on Boardhouse and on Swanee, but you live right beside Stennis.
That's right.
So you have a bit of a penchant. You like Stennis, do you?
Yes, It's, I want to say it's my favourite loch, but it's on my doorstep, so I can walk there. Excuse me, I can walk there in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And
fish, and it's.
But Stennis is funny because Stennis is actually like salt water, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it's brackish water.
Yeah.
It has a tide cycle, but it takes 2 weeks to fill up.
It's amazing.
And 2 weeks to can drop again.
And you've caught flounder and pollock there.
Well, yeah, I've not caught flounders, but I've seen flounders.
You've seen the flounders?
Yeah.
You've caught pollock?
I've caught pollock, yeah.
Right, and trout?
Yes. And sea trout. Yeah, so but I think that in days gone by, they got herring and stuff in there as well.
Right.
Or mackerel and stuff like that.
And it's about the same size as Loch Harry here, is it?
Yeah. So nearly 3,000 acres, I think.
Oh, right. So, they're big enough pieces of water.
Yeah, it's roughly the same size as Rutland water, roughly the same size in area.
No, it really is fantastic. Outside of Stennis, what's your favourite loch?
They're all my favourite, I would say. I don't really mind. Yeah.
Don't mind.
Yeah. The nicest fish are on Harry.
Yeah.
Nicest looking fish, and they're good fish on Harry.
Just another interesting aspect to it, Tom, is competition fishing. There's a big competition scene on the Orkneys.
Yeah, there is. Well, they're a really strong club, as you heard Stu say there with the members and everything. But there is a really strong competition scene there, and it's what keeps the club going there. I found out since they actually run, because I was chatting to Norman about it, and we'll hear Norman's clip later on. They run 16 competitions a year. And it's great because he gets all the club members together, gets them out together, gets them out fishing, and it's a real focal point for the club. But it's very very serious up there because when I was in the site on Harry, that's their hut. They have an Angler of the Year competition, and so how that works is you fish 16 competitions, but you take your 10 best results. Okay. And I'm looking at even now, they still have a healthy, most competitions will have 25 to 30 rods fishing them. So it's fairly serious. So, and it's taking your 10 best results and on a point system, and whoever's the top gets Clubman of the Year. So as you can imagine, it's fairly healthy. But Norman's been quite successful. And for anybody, like, it was great to chat to Norman. I'd heard of Norman long ago. Because anybody who's ever read Stan Headley's The Lockfisher Bible or his book The Flies of Scotland, or regularly writes in trout and salmon, and Stan is from the Orkneys himself, but Norman fished a lot with him, so I'd heard him. But Norman was also very successful early with the Orkneys team from the 90s, which won the Benson and Hedges twice, and the Benson and Hedges was a fairly prestigious team competition back in the 90s. I suppose the one we have now will be the Airflow that we have now, with the equivalent. It used to be the Anglian Water, there was the Hardy, but when it started off, it was in the days when cigarette companies could sponsor things.
Well, I'm thinking of the snooker, wasn't it? B&H?
Yeah, exactly. B&H, yeah, and Benson Hedge was really good at that. They sponsored the team competition, so they won it twice, and that was very big because they said themselves they were coming down from brown trout waters up in the Orkneys, and to do that was some achievement. To do it once was some achievement. To do it twice, they also had a silver medal as well in it. So I was a big trout fisherman reader back in the day, and I used to always read the results, so I was well aware of it. So it was great to meet him and talk to him about it.
Is it really, like, do you get that sense, like, population 20,000, there's obviously a lot of visiting anglers? Is fly fishing a central part of island culture over there?
It is, but and Ken alludes to it there, it is very much part, but it's an aging demographic, and
like
you've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it there, definitely. But that said, it is very big there, and where we're staying, or you're here for fishing, quite often it's a bit like around here. You'd see cars going around with rod holders up, which I always think, you'd wave to them. Kindred spirit,
When's their big, like?
If you look at it, they start their competitions season on the 1st of May, right? But the lakes open from March, but it really gets going from about May onwards there. And from mid-June to the end of July that would be their prime time. They have some very good fishing early in the season, and we asked about September fishing, and you'll hear Norman saying, but you can get caught badly. And another thing that was said to us as well was, you can lose days up there with the bad weather. You can really lose days up there.
Tell me, was there, in terms of like many other boats out in the lake when you were out, was it noticeably like a busy time for you?
There was never, on the smaller lakes we fished Swanee and Boardhouse. The day we were on Swanee, we got that was the day we had to come off at lunchtime. So there was no other boat out that day. The day we were on Boardhouse, there was 2 other boats out. Now these are the smaller lakes, but at most, Swanee is the second biggest lake, but it's probably about a mile long. But any day we're out on Harry, there was other boats out. There was other boats out with boatmen. There was other guys. Harry was the busiest lake, but as they say, Harry is the jewel in the crown.
It
really is. And also the day we were on Swanee, there was a competition on as well, and that was on Harry. Okay. So all the locals would have been on Harry that day.
Yeah, they're really into the competitions, and a great way for them all to get together and.
Yeah, well, you can really see it's the glue that keeps them all together.
Yeah.
But it's good. You can. That's why it was good to talk to Norman and to hear what he said about it. And he's fairly keen on his old competitions. He's on.
Well, let's hear it. Actually, the record this man has is pretty impressive as well, as we will hear. So this is Norman Irvine.
Well, I fished for a boy when I was about 6 years old, and but I only took up fly fishing when I was 28. So
you were saying that you took up fly fishing late enough.
I did, yes, exactly. Yeah, I seen this guy fishing fly one night, so I decided to have a go at it. So I thought I'd fish it for a week to see how I got on, and I had 85 fish off Harry that week. So I thought this is for me. So.
And then you were saying, somebody said to you, well, maybe you should try competition fishing.
That's right, yeah, and I got out in the first competition, I won the first competition, so for then on, it's just been kind of hooked in it. So.
Really good.
Yeah.
So you realised then that the competition scene was kind of good for you?
Yes.
And you got into the competitions then?
I got into the competition, yes, and then started fishing we got fishing for Scotland, and then we decided to have a go at the Benson Hedges fly fishing.
Benson and Hedges competitions. I remember reading Trout Fisherman years ago, and you'd be looking, there'd always be a 3 or 4 page spread on the Benson and Hedges, but you did quite well on the Benson and Hedges.
Yeah, we won a silver medal in 89, and we won a gold in 91 and a gold in 94.
But and I remember thinking back then, because it was, you'd have looked at, you were the Orkneys lads, and you'd have been traditional loch style fishing, and you went down to the home of, English reservoir fishing, and came back with the honours.
That's right, yes. It's heathens from Orkney. We're brown trout fishers, and we were beating them on the ring. Yes. So. When
I was chatting to you, on one of the matches down there, you're actually getting on dries, wasn't it?
That's right, yes. Dry fly, yeah. That was on Rutland here. We won it in 94. So. Yeah.
Well, I've been chatting before, and so you'd have come back from there, and we've had one day here where the DI7s and the DI5s have worked. Did that sink and line tactics come from you going down to, let's say, the English reservoirs, or was it Loch Leven, or how did you?
Well, it was more, I would say it's more Loch Leven. We are fishing sinking lines on Loch Leven, but because we found that after 9 o'clock on Leven, you had to come up. So, but then we are also fishing with Rutland. At the start when we were fishing Rutland, it was all wet fly fishing and stuff, and then later on, we all turned to blobs and boobies, and you had to fish down for them, and then we tried on Harry here, and it worked a treat on Harry. So when the fish were moved out in the deeper water, so we just kind of. Worked from there and
brought it back and worked.
Yeah.
No, I have to say we've been really impressed with all the lakes we've been on. Yeah. But Harry is something special, isn't it?
Oh yes, Harry is something else. It's great fishing, good fish in it, and you can't catch fish all day long in it.
Yeah, well, as you keep telling us.
Yeah.
A fair play to you. The first day we were out with you, we were fishing quite a while. You put us right on the tactics. You have some killer flies yourself for it.
You had the odd one, yes. The Madeira hedgehog I come up with, it really works well. So.
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah, it's one of the main flies.
It has done really well for us here. And also the style of fishing it.
Exactly, yeah. Not too long a line.
Yeah, you pointed that out to us the first day, because we started off sort of chucking out Faro length the line
and wrapping it back, yes.
Yeah.
And that wasn't going to work.
You were very good, and you just said it to us. You just said, because we were saying it to you, what do you think we're at? You just said, too long a line and too fast.
Yeah.
And we changed, and?
Yeah, it was glory hole for you. Yeah.
So, like, we have Harry here. What's your favourite lake here?
As a toss-up, I grew up fishing Stennis, so I have a very soft spot for Stennis.
Same as you.
But Harry is something else. You're gonna like, because it's clear water, beautiful fish, and you can see them coming up and taking it, and that. So it is.
I have to say, I'd say it the first day I was out with you, when it was very dark that day, and everything was grey, and the next thing the water would erupt with this beautiful light golden brown fish. They are beautiful fish.
They're lovely fish and great condition.
Yeah.
So, and when you see that coming through the wave after you, it's something else.
Yeah, really it is. Yeah. We fished on a couple of other lakes there, and we fished on Swanee. No, I stop on that. No, hold on. So, like you were saying there, when you think of it, we catch a fish all the time. You have fished in Ireland, haven't you?
I've fished in Ireland, yes.
Fished in a couple of internationals.
Yes, and it's different.
Yeah.
A bit doer than this place, you know.
And that's it, isn't it? I mean, like, that's the thing we're finding here. Like, you fished Con at an international back in the 90s, and here is so much more lively.
Yes, it's you're going the whole day on Ireland and hoping for a couple of takes.
Yeah.
You know, but in fact, the year I was there, most of them never caught a fish the whole time they were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was lucky I caught fish every day, but you're just praying for a fish more or less. It's not going to be. If you miss it, that's your chance over. That could be the only chance you get.
Yeah.
So
you didn't miss them. You got them. Now, speaking of the competitions, fair play to you, because I'm here in the Harrier site, and since 1971, the Orkneys Trout Fishing Association have a Fly Fisherman of the Year. And there's a fantastic board here behind me with all the names on it, and it's pretty impressive the number of times you've had it, Norman.
Yes, I've got won it a few times, you know.
Yeah. So what is it? 16 times.
16 times.
16 times. That is phenomenal.
Aye.
And that's over 10 to 14 competitions a year.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You've really helped the competition scene here.
Yeah.
In the club.
Aye, it all kind of revolves around the competition scene here, you know. Yeah. All the members and that. So. And
that probably is the core of why the club.
Yeah,
works so well.
That's right. Yes.
Because you're meeting you have 10 to 14 competitions.
Yeah, a competition every week in the fishing season.
When did they start?
Oh, that's been on the go. I don't know when they started. There must have been 1971
71,
there.
Yeah.
71, but I didn't start fishing until 1980. So.
You didn't start fishing in 1980, and I'm looking here at the list, and in 1982 you won it the first time.
Yeah, I won it the first time in 82, and then I won it 6 years in a row. So yeah, they were getting a bit fed up with me.
And they could be fed up with you, Norman, now. In all fairness. And the competitions here, they run, was it from the 1st of May till the end of March?
Yeah, the first one's usually the first Sunday in May, and then the last one's about the end of August. Right. So.
And come here, what's the fishing like here? Like, we're here in the middle of July, and you're telling us we're lucky with the weather.
Yeah.
Do you get some fairly...
Yeah, it used to be that people used to ask me, when's the best time to come up? And I would say, May, June. But now I tell them not to come up before the last week in June.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because the weather can be that bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's changed, but you can get gales the whole way through. Right. Actually, June this year, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
With nothing but sunshine. But you've been very lucky to get out the number every day. You've been very lucky.
But interesting enough, we still lost half a day.
You still lost half a day that Sunday. Yeah, it
just goes to show.
Yeah.
And Camille, what's it like then in September? It's fairly.
It can be hit or miss in September. You can get some beautiful Septembers. Other times it can be terrible. Yeah. But that's why we finish our competitions in August. Because well, it could be that you win the group for a week or 2 weeks, you know what I mean? So we can get some horrendous winds in this place.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah. And it's, well, we got for the depth of the law, we got a big wave in it. We can get a fairly big wave, and it can be some very hairy journeys at times.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. Come here, how are you doing this year in the competitions?
I'm actually lying second.
Oh yeah, are you?
Well, I was top in the last competition. I'm 2 points behind.
That was on Sunday, wasn't it?
Sunday, yes.
And you were saying you had what? You had 6 fish by
6 fish by 1 o'clock, and then nothing after that. And I was stupid enough not to change.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing. It was working for you.
It was working for me, and you always think, the next cast is going to be one, the next cast, but it didn't work that way. The boy who won it, the boy who said that Bobby, he got his last fish at 1 o'clock as well, and never touched another fish.
So that's the way.
So that's the way it goes, yeah. So.
But you're not too bad. You're lying second.
I'm lying second, yeah. No bad for an old chap.
My God, that's some going, Tom. Was it 16 first place?
Yeah, 16 anglers, the angler of the year. Yeah, some going.
He's like the Man United Alex Ferguson, dominant of the Premier League years.
Yeah, well, here's where we're different. I would have said like he's a bit like Bob Paisley of 7 days.
Well,
But
Man
yeah,
United
he
did
is.
have
Yes,
13
he is.
titles in 26 years, but who's counting?
Well, yeah, okay. You won't drag me into it.
Tell me this though, like, and he was saying, like, he only started fishing when he was fly fishing when he was
Yeah, he did.
29.
No,
Like,
it's fun. Yeah. No, he fished before, and his biggest fish, and we haven't discussed much of them, but there's a lot of smaller lakes on, they've done a boats and they can fish from the shore. His biggest fish was up on 10 pounds, but it was when he started fishing as a youngster on a worm. I think that was the Loch Scale, I think. Yeah, so he did fish, but he just got into fly fishing when he was much later, and found out he was kind of good at it. Yeah,
really good at it, right? Like,
yeah.
oh my God.
Interestingly, actually, what we saw up there, while we're on about it, we saw a guy fly fishing with worms. There's a couple of guys do it up there. Yeah, they roll cast
With live worms.
Yeah.
Is that
They caught a
legal
couple
in
of fish.
Ireland?
Well, yeah, I think so. I can't see how it would be illegal. If fishery rules don't allow worms, then it's illegal. But if fishery rules allow worms, then it has to be legal.
Work for salmon.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Thinking.
It never occurred to me.
Yeah.
The worms on the hook.
Mm.
Throw a few
Yeah,
feathers.
and he was
at
roll
the back.
casting. He was roll casting. He wasn't.
It's an interesting one. And
Yeah,
actually,
there is a bait casting club on the island, section club, but the fly fishing is the big one. Because we asked as well, there's all legal methods, and you can troll on the lakes as well. And apparently, dapping used to be big there.
that was what I was going to ask you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We see dapping isn't big in Norway, you see, so that's why I didn't cross to the Orkneys.
Well, maybe that's why. Although the flies they did use were the Orkneys.
Did you see much Irish wet flies being used or influence?
Yeah,
or...
yeah. And the dabblers will work there. We caught on the dabblers.
Yeah.
We did catch on the dabblers. Yeah.
But like local anglers, would they? Because in fairness to Stan Headley, I remember from reading his articles, he would mention the Irish flies, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah. And would say to put them on a cast and use them. And they do really work there. I caught on dabbler, and I actually caught on a dabbler when I was fishing the sunk line, right, as well, in the middle of the second from bottom. So the Irish flies do work there. And I think I caught on a stimulator another day. I just chucked up a stimulator just to try.
Any sea trout?
Not when we were there. But when there were sea trout caught on Harry the Sunday before the Sunday we arrived, that we were on Swanee, there were sea trout caught. And a couple of the bigger fish that show up tend to be sea trout.
And is there much of an active, like, do they actively go after them? Is there a big...
Interestingly, there's sea trout fishing there. It opens on the 25th of February, I think. I think it's around then. And it's all done in the sea. It's done in the saltwater.
Standing by the shore, kind of like, is it?
Yeah.
Or
standing in the seaweed, yeah. And it can be quite good, I believe.
What about salmon?
No, we asked that. I think, there have been salmon caught there.
What is it? Bite catch or whatever.
Yeah. There's no salmon fishery on it at all. Like it's brown trout heaven. Yeah, it really is. It's brown
That's
trout
why you
heaven.
went.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You think, I'm still mulling over that question that you gave to me. And it's a really good question. But I think when you go and you get that action, there's other lads over there at the moment, Irish lads as well from Galway, and one of them was saying to us before we went over, it would spoil you for wet fly fishing.
Yeah,
it would actually spoil you wet fly fishing. Now that said, dries do work there, but there was never a day for us that there was any big hatches of fly or the conditions suited it. There was actually, sorry, I tell a lie, on board house. The day we were on board house, the wind dropped and fish started rising. But I didn't bother switching to dries because we were catching them on the wets as well. And actually, I caught a couple of fish. What you would do is, when you were doing the hogs, is you just chuck out the hogs, right? Give them a flick, chuck them out and leave them. And even though you're on an intermediate, they would stay floating for
they'd come
up to 10 seconds. Yeah. So got a couple of fish off the top like that.
But do the local anglers not do it as much, is it? Or why bother when you can just catch them on the wet side, is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they don't do it as much. Talk to them, they do it. And they get hatches of olives there. I'd like to see that when it happens. And they can get quite large hatches of sedge. And also what they get is they get big falls of daddy longlegs. I was really interested. It's something that I never think of here, but we're doing a drift, and next thing, Stu and Norman, again, they look behind all cattle in the field, What do you mean? Oh, they'll stir up the cow dung flies, or if they're daddy long legs, they'll stir them up.
Yeah.
And they get blown out.
Like how I see the pictures.
Yeah, stop. I mean, the fish were just beautiful. It really was.
My question to you is, would you go back? That's the ultimate.
Yes. We decided on the ferry. Yeah, I know. Seriously, we decided on the ferry. To be honest, we all decided beforehand anyway, you know.
So would you make that like an annual pilgrimage, kind of take a week over?
Yeah. I mean, the fishing was just lovely. Now, that said, another thing that happened, we got a lovely house, which always makes things really nice. You know, the accommodation, crack with the lads was good, and that always makes a trip as well. You know.
Yeah, and you can do it with the car as well. Like.
Yeah, and you can bring all your stuff, which is great. Yeah, so like, but anyway, to answer your question, yeah, without a doubt.
Well, look, that's bucket list number 3. We'll have another one actually coming up probably the end of the summer. We should do them every quarter, I think.
Yeah, we should actually. Yeah,
at least, because I can't believe it's only 3. We've another one actually coming up. Ken Whelan went to Montana, so that'll be an interesting one. I'm
looking forward to that, actually. Yeah, really looking forward to that one.
We'll line that up as well. And I'm looking forward to the pictures. We'll put them up on social media. I've got my geography lesson, my history lesson, and my fishing lesson all in one now.
Our thanks to Ken, Stu, and to Norman for joining us on the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram, and myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.